there was a day in late October of 2015 that we refer to as the darkest day in Softway's history.
It was the day that we were forced to make layoffs for the first time in the history of Softway. It was an experience I will never forget, and also an experience that I've committed to myself that I will never want to face ever again.
We split up the groups of people. The folks that were laid off were in one space, and the other people that weren't being laid off were in a completely different space.
Yes.
And when the 20 or so individuals were let go, they weren't allowed to come and say goodbye. And the people that were still part of the Softway were not allowed to say goodbye either. And so I remember when you walked in and you told us what had happened, after a little while, when we all walked back out into the office, everyone was just gone. So what got us to that moment in 2015? You'd been in business for nearly 13 years. Up until that point. You've had great success. What were some of the reasons why that had to happen in the first place?
It was because of my behaviors, my selfish behaviors, and the attitude that I brought to work each and every day, where I did not respect others. I did not really value my team members. I was incredibly selfish. I was arrogant. I didn't trust my team. I, in fact, trusted my processes and tools more than my team. I was making poor decisions because of my mindset and my behavior that I had brought to the organization for those last 13 years.
If that style of leadership wasn't working, what did you do to change it? Where did you start?
I had to realize for myself that it was me who was the biggest obstacle in my own way for helping Softway and leading Softway.
And that's actually how you came upon servant leadership, right? It's interesting because you're from India, and the term servant and the term leadership would never really be connected, and you hadn't really heard of that type of leadership.
No, never.
But when you started to do this research and trying to understand different ways of leading that were different from what you had seen and what you had practiced, you saw that there was an opportunity to care for people and to respect people through this type of leadership.
I could serve others and be able to bring meaningful change in the lives of the people that worked at Softway, but in return, how much value and benefit it could bring to Softway from a business outcomes perspective really helped me see the potential opportunity of going down that path. It wasn't easy. It still is. I have not reached or arrived yet. I'm still on this pursuit of practicing servant leadership. One tip that I can share has to do with being able to look for the goodness of your team instead of focusing on just their weaknesses.
Okay.
I think that has had the biggest impact on my ability to lead, is to be able to look at people for the goodness they bring to the table and for the goodness that they are as a person, and allowing me to not always focus on the weaknesses or their problems and their issues. And that changed my whole perspective of how I treated people, how I could love them, how I could care for them.
One of the things I remember that really meant a lot to me is during this journey, you wrote everyone handwritten notes. And one of those notes that you wrote was when our company was not doing very well still. And I opened it up and I remember seeing, thank you for the work that you've been doing. Thank you for the time and investment that you've made into Softway. Here's $100. Go take your family out and do something with them. And to this day, I still have that note. And it actually meant so much to my wife because she saw your desire for our family to be taken care of in that moment. And that was at the moment where she honestly said, keep fighting for Softway, because I can see that Muhammad is fighting for Softway.
Me starting to change my own behaviors was the foundational step in course correcting Softway's journey to fixing its culture.
And outside of the culture, our business hit the pinnacle of success in 2019.
Yes.
And that created resilience to weather the storm in 2020 and pivot our entire business model during this pandemic. I know that there's this quote that we love, that like business leaders love. It's by Peter Drucker. Can you just walk us through that and what our quote is?
So it's a quote that I believe in firmly, and I think it helped me get on my journey, which is culture eats strategy for breakfast. As we began our journey to understand culture for Softway and even for our customers, we've come to a resolve more and more that you can't have the culture you would desire to have without every individual's behaviors reflecting the right mindsets, attitudes, and communication to create that culture. And so we have a saying now where we say behaviors eat culture for lunch, because without the right behaviors, you cannot create the right culture. And without the right culture, you're not going to be effectively able to implement the strategies to help achieve your business outcomes. So it all comes down to individual behaviors.
That is foundational.
That is foundational.
Yeah. And once you get the behaviors right, or at least start working towards right behaviors,
Yes.
it unlocks a culture.
Yes.
That creates resilience that eventually leads to our outcomes. And that is actually what led us to building this philosophy, right? This philosophy around this approach and the ability to measure behavioral impact on culture.
What starts with the right behaviors can ladder up through attribution to getting you to achieve your business objectives and outcomes.
And that led to more revenue. That led to increased opportunities. That led to more creative output, more technological innovation. All of those things came by way of focusing on behaviors.
Yes. I mean, strategy is important, like we've always said, but we can't just focus on the business objectives and process and tools or technology. We have to understand that all organizations are built by humans for humans, and we need to focus on the base foundation, which is human behaviors.
Thank you, Mohammed, for your time today and for sharing your story of not only where you have been, but also what Softway is going through. And speaking of Softway, tell us a bit about what we do.
Sure. So Softway is a business to employee solutions company. We help organizations with their employee behavior change in order for their employees to become more effective and productive, and ultimately helping the business achieve better business outcomes. And we do that by offering a suite of culture and inclusion products, internal communication, and technology services. So that's how we help our customers become more effective and successful. But most importantly, what we'd like to do is be able to bring back humanity to the workplace, starting with our own workplace, but also helping our customers bring back humanity to their workplaces through the services and products that we offer them.
Excellent. Thanks for your time.